Okay, think about this for a second. He's a plumber who barely does any plumbing, an Italian hero who was actually created in Japan, and, get this, he's more recognizable to people today than Mickey Mouse. So how on earth did a character, born out of pure technical necessity, become one of the biggest entertainment icons of all time? Well, that's what we're here to figure out.
But this story is way bigger than just being popular. It's actually a story of salvation. Seriously, because to really get Mario, you have to understand something crucial. He didn't just show up to star in a few games. He arrived on the scene right when the entire video game industry was on the verge of total collapse, and he basically had to save it.
So, where does a story like this even begin? Well, it wasn't with some grand artistic vision. Nope, it starts with a bunch of really practical problems on a tiny, pixelated screen.
See, Mario's iconic look? It wasn't designed to be cool or fashionable. It was designed so you could actually see him. Back in the 8-bit days, every single pixel counted. Animating hair? A total nightmare. So what they do? Slapped a cap on him. You couldn't really draw a mouth, but a big bushy mustache? That made his nose pop right out from his face. And those famous overalls? They weren't a fashion statement. They were there so you could see his arms moving when he ran and jumped. Literally every single iconic part of his design was just a clever workaround for a technical problem.
So here's the really amazing part. Mario is this masterpiece of design that was born entirely from limitations. It's the perfect example of how creativity just explodes when you're stuck in a box. And that whole idea? That's going to be the theme for his entire story.
And believe me, that journey got very serious very fast. Just as Mario was, taking his first few pixelated steps, the entire world he was a part of was completely falling apart.
Yeah, I'm talking about the great video game crash of 1983. And when I say crash, I mean it crashed hard. The market was just flooded with terrible, low-quality games, and people got fed up. Confidence just vanished. Industry revenue dropped, get this, by 97%. 97! It honestly looked like video games were just a fad that was over.
But then, out of the ashes of that disaster came Nintendo. They launched the NES in North America, and they bundled it with a game that would change everything. Of course, I'm talking about Super Mario Bros. This wasn't just one more game on the shelf, it was this whole new experience. It was so creative, so fun, that it pretty much single-handedly brought the entire industry back from the dead.
So what made it so special? Well, one of the biggest game changers was how it popularized the idea of the power-up. Think about it. Before Mario, in most games, you were just stuck with whatever abilities you had at the start. But Nintendo flipped that on its head. They threw in these items that could completely change how you played, right in the middle of the action.
You know what I'm talking about, right? The Super Mushroom. It wasn't just about making Mario bigger, it was like an extra life, a second chance. It made the game way more forgiving. Then you get the Fire Flower, and suddenly, you're not just jumping over Goombas, you're on the attack. And the Superstar? Oh man, that was just pure, awesome, invincible chaos. Each power-up added a whole new layer of strategy, and let's be honest, just made it ridiculously fun.
Okay, so Mario saved the 2D world. Mission accomplished, right? Wrong. His next challenge was even bigger. As technology started to leap forward, Mario had to do something that basically no character had ever successfully pulled off before. He had to jump out of that flat 2D world and into a full 3D universe.
And I mean, this shift was massive. 2D Mario was all about going from left to right, perfect timing, very linear. But 3D, Super Mario 64, was all about freedom. Suddenly, you had these huge open worlds to explore. You had an analog stick that let you move in any direction you wanted. It wasn't just a new level, it was a completely new language for how to play a game.
And here's the thing you have to remember. Super Mario 64 didn't just, stick Mario into a 3D level. It literally wrote the blueprint for how 3D platformers would work for decades. It was a huge risk, but it paid off big time. It proved that Mario wasn't just some 8-bit nostalgia act. He was a character that could completely reinvent himself over and over again.
And it's through that constant innovation, that reinvention, that Mario became something more than just a video game character. He basically wove himself into the fabric of global pop culture.
I mean, just look at the numbers for a second. They're staggering. The entire Mario franchise has sold way over 400 million copies. That's not just successful, that is a level of global domination that almost nothing else in entertainment ever comes close to.
And his influence now goes so far beyond your TV screen. You've got movies, you've got his own theme parks at Universal Studios. He's on every kind of merchandise you can imagine. He even showed up at the Olympics. At this point, calling him just a video game character doesn't even cut it. He's basically a global ambassador for the idea of fun.
So why? Why has he lasted this long? What's the secret sauce? Honestly, it comes down to something really, really simple. Mario is universal. He doesn't have some complicated, gritty backstory. He doesn't have these dark motivations. He's just the pure joy of adventure, the thrill of exploring something new and succeeding. And that feeling, that's a language that everybody, everywhere understands.
And that kind of leaves us with one last thing to think about. From an 8-bit character born out of necessity, to a 3D pioneer, to a global icon, Mario's entire history is about making that next big leap. So when we look to the future, the question isn't if Mario is going to change again. The real question is, what new dimension will he leap into next?